Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says it will be difficult for all countries at the upcoming United Nations Climate Conference at the COP28 to make further commitments on climate change actions. This especially if some economies are dependent on oil and gas sectors. Regardless, he says Singapore will do what it can by facilitating discussions and working with other countries that are also looking to decarbonise. Mr. Lee was speaking to the media as he wrapped up his trip to the United Arab Emirates. Clara Lee with this report.
A small, low-lying country like Singapore is vulnerable to the effects of climate change. That is why it is willing to do its part. Mr. Lee hopes that COP28 will produce a substantial conclusion, even as Singapore's own Sustainability and the Environment Minister, Grace Fu, will be taking a role as the chair of the Subcommittee on Mitigation. This means she'll be co-facilitating negotiations to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The conference will start on the 30th of November in Dubai. Decarbonisation of the energy sector plays a big part in these efforts, and with many countries bringing different perspectives to the table, challenges remain.
What happens if the world really decarbonises and there's no market for oil and gas, or you're not allowed to sell oil and gas? And then what does a country do whose valuable energy resources are in the ground and can't be monetized? And will they accept it? What is fair to them? How do you come to get an agreement which they will accept and which is workable? And that's a very difficult question, which we haven't yet found an answer to and will need to be discussed. And I'm sure it will have to be discussed at this COP's meeting and also future ones as well.
Decarbonisation was underscored during his visit to the United Arab Emirates, where he visited the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. Mr. Lee says that it was useful for Singapore to share notes with the UAE, as both were on different economic transformation paths. He also expressed the possibility of buying green energy from the country.
The UAE has rolled out its decarbonisation program by investing heavily in alternatives to fossil fuels. The country is building nuclear power plants and exploring sources such as hydrogen and wind. It's also working with Malaysia and Indonesia in developing these technologies. On its part, Singapore is looking to explore all external sources of green energy.
It needs the engineering to be done, it needs the political agreements to be reached, and then you've got to work out the commercial arrangements. So I said, yes, we are quite open. We are looking to import considerable amounts of green energy from all sources, and we are happy to receive propositions.
PM Lee also addressed mounting geopolitical tensions in the region. He drew parallels with the interfaith harmony UAE prides itself on and the religious tolerance Singapore upholds.
In the middle of what's happening in the Middle East and Gaza, it's all the more important that the different races in Singapore understand this, and the different religions in Singapore appreciate this, and that we maintain their ties and do not let what happens elsewhere affect our religious harmony.
He adds that in times of stress, Singaporeans should reaffirm their harmony rather than end up in opposite camps and torn apart. Clara Lee, CNA, Dubai.
During his visit to the United Arab Emirates, Prime Minister Lee also met some 700 Singaporeans living there. The event was a belated National Day celebration for Singaporeans in the UAE. Numbering around 3,000, the Singaporean community is the largest in the Middle East. Guests at the event also got a chance to chat with other ministers who were part of PM's delegation. Mr. Lee says that he's heartened to see these Singaporeans making a name for themselves far from home.
I'm very happy to be able to chat with all of you and to touch base with our Singaporeans who are far-flung in countries where there are opportunities, where there are challenges, where you are making a contribution and where you are wearing red and flying the flag high.
I'm here for already 11 years, and this is the first time the PM is coming to Dubai, and we're really looking forward for him to come. My son is here, so we're just waiting to see him, to see his Prime Minister.
We have a few Singaporean friends, but we've obviously never met any, the number of Singaporeans we've seen today. So it's quite nice seeing everybody gather and seeing people wear red and white and stuff like that.
It's very heartwarming, I would say, because I seldom get to be in this kind of event, and I feel that us being one, even though we are in overseas, Singaporean all together.